one. All right, Terry Keating, George Fludas. Great to have you guys here.
Thanks for having me.
Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so not too long of a travel to get here. You guys?
No, it was
pretty close
relatively
to where the shop
painless
is.
today.
Yeah, we're out in the west suburbs here of Chicago.
About a half hour to get out.
Yeah, and I know both you guys from kind of separate. You've been coming to the shop forever, and then Terry probably the drum show.
Yeah, the drum
first
show.
place I met you.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll ask you some questions. But why don't we start with you, Terry? So, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then you're a Ludwig expert. You've got really great videos on YouTube.
Well, you know what the thing is, I think when I used to go on the chat rooms and stuff years ago, I was just always kind of know-it-all-y about it. Like I'd always talk like I knew what I was talking about. When it turned out a lot of it was accurate. But yeah. I'm just because over the years I used to collect and go out.
What are some of the forums? Like Vintage Drums forum, maybe?
There was the Harry Kangany one.
Okay, cool.
And then it became.
We were talking about that at my last
drum forum.
Rob
right
Cook.
But I like Vintage Drum Forum. I think I know the guy that operates that.
Cool. Maybe that one, was a little.
I think he's a local guy, possibly.
I still go on there sometimes to try and figure out really esoteric.
Well,
what is this for? What piece is this? Yeah.
Plus, too, isn't there a link maybe to the Sonar? You ever seen the Sonar Museum website?
No.
So if you have any questions about Sonar, you can go on.
Okay.
Like all the badges, the champion.
No, it's a great resource, though.
Yeah, quick background, though. Is that Bonzoleum?
It's Bonzoleum.
And you guys work together on this.
And that's Bonhamology.
Well, he got me started with the YouTube channel. He was the one who kind of goaded me to start my own channel, which became Bonhamology.
And I get 20% of everything.
I see these videos all the time. Yeah, you guys are great. And yeah, George, you play in a lot of different styles. Like I had really only seen you do jazz stuff before I saw these. And yeah, man, it's really great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Terry, maybe how did you get so into just John Bonham and like all that?
Well, it's so funny.
Where are you from?
Well, I grew up in Oak Park, Illinois.
Nice.
And
a lot of time there.
In our house, we had Monkees vinyl, and then Beatles, and whoever this, a couple like singles. Like Seasons in the Sun, and we had that. Elton John.
Yeah.
Sure.
But then about 77 or 78 rolled around, maybe a little later than that, 79. And my brother had The Song Remains the Same. And I remember I want to hear Stairway to Heaven. So I just, picked up the record, took it out, didn't realize it was even the live version.
Sure.
Put it on. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I got used to it. And then I'd always hear the end of the song right before it, which is No Quarter.
Yeah.
The masterpiece of The Song Remains the Same. The original edit, or the original cut.
Yeah.
Just go. That got me. The way Bonham played there, the way it sounded. Jimmy Page is playing his guitar like a sax solo, kind of like a horn solo. It's just ass kicking. That got me into Zeppelin.
That's awesome, man.
Literally just pulled me right out of the.
We have that in common because my dad took me to see The Song Remains the Same in '77, and I was probably 10 or 11. I think I had just turned 11. And I was mesmerized by the whole movie, but especially by No Quarter.
Yeah.
So when I got home, when we, got back home, I was like, I got to find this song. I got to find what record that song No Quarter is on. Right. So I went through it was my dad's sister, my aunt's collection, and found the name of the song on Houses of the Holy. And then I just played it that night like a bunch of times.
Oh, and then you heard the piano solo, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Well, and it was so different, but it was
so
still,
different.
that mood of the song and everything.
Totally.
But that's funny because that's what hooked me, too.
Right,
Seeing The Song Remains the Same.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, George, when you were learning drums, because I know you from the jazz end of things, was your family, you were talking about your dad. Were they musicians?
My dad played drums.
Oh, your dad's drummer.
Yeah,
Okay.
as a hobby,
Nice.
It wasn't his profession. But,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And was he was probably not into the Bonham stuff as much, but maybe a little bit. Was he more rock guy or more jazz?
Well, he just liked anything that sounded good and had a good groove. You know?
Right on,
so
man.
he grew up in the era of swing and bebop, and he went to a lot of jazz clubs and heard a lot of the great musicians, great drummers from that era.
Was he from Chicago area?
Yeah, from Chicago.
Well, he knew
Awesome.
great music. He was
he was like he was into Art Blakey and Max Roach and all those great drummers from that era, and saw them in the 50s. He saw Miles Davis, he saw Coltrane, he saw Sonny Rollins, he saw Max play live. So he transferred a lot of that information and passion to me from a very young age. So I
you
grew
got
up
to know those drummers at a young age. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, I got to hear him
people
live, and I also got to hear the records on a everyday basis. He was playing that music, so I kind of grew up with that. And then the Zeppelin thing was just a result of his sort of musical curiosity.
Sure,
he was into lots of different types of music.
Right.
And at that time, Zeppelin was around. There was a band,
yeah,
a lot, like making records still. And
so you guys
it was early '70s.
You guys have been to a couple shows, probably. You got any cool stories?
To Zeppelin shows?
Yeah, Zeppelin shows.
No,
Oh my God!
I wish.
I
wish.
It's just I would have been
We were just a little too young.
just a little too young.
Also,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That makes it even more, I guess, romanticized. Yeah, no,
Well,
I wish I
yeah,
could have
yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
For sure.
No,
Yeah.
I was all geared up.
Just
my
about all the
freshman year of
music
high
I love,
school.
I never was able to actually see in person.
Yeah,
myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much of it that I wish I could have seen, but
Well, thank God for the recordings that are out there. Some of that old stuff is just crazy good.
Absolutely.
When you thought you've heard everything like Bonham and Page and the guy's just killing it, you'll hear some stuff. You'll be like, oh my God, what was that? You know
that's
what I mean?
like all great music. I think there's always something new to discover. Really in all great art. You think about like
Yeah, man. Music is a great activity, and I think it's like a never-ending activity. If you start getting to like a video game system or something, there's like an end to it, and a lot less you get out of it. But music, it's like the never-ending. There's always a new challenge.
Yeah.
You never beat the game.
It's
well,
infinite
you're always growing,
discoveries,
right?
too.
You're growing. You're learning stuff, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah. Both
Right on.
sides. Your growth and also what you take in.
Yeah, you teach a little bit, I think, right, George?
I just teach privately.
So you
a
got
little.
your own studio. And then Terry, what about you? Do you play out a lot? I don't really. I mean, I've seen your channel, and I got to tell you, we'll talk about that later. Though.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from your channel, actually. Yeah.
Oh well, the thing is I don't have like great technique and stuff. I just whenever I used to hate the thought. I remember when I was younger and I first got.
I've seen you play though. You sound great, man.
Well, I appreciate it, but I have a lot.
Yeah.
There's a skew to my playing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because I'm just still trying to get my left hand, my hands even.
Sure.
Whenever I hear me doing singles,
I switched
like,
to
ding, dong, ding,
traditional.
dong, ding, dong, ding.
I learned match, and I'm still trying to fix that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still better in match.
You know, it's cool. You see Copeland always between just the one finger. You ever
Yeah.
see that? He played here.
Yeah, and
He
didn't
did-
he tape up a lot?
Yeah, he
too,
put
so
duct,
he could really
duct
wail
tape
on
on
it?
his hand
Yeah.
and stuff. And
I would never do a rock gig. I get my skin will bleed if I do this the whole
oh,
time.
Copeland,
Yeah.
that's one of his great
You got to switch to match.
quality is how he used to, he's still, or at least back in 07, 08, when
Sure.
they did the tour, can smack that snare drum.
Another
for
guy
him.
like that was Levon Helm.
Yeah.
He played traditional all the time and had such a.
Steve Smith.
No, a lot of
Does
cats.
Steve Smith play traditional?
I don't know.
I think mostly.
I think
both.
maybe he did.
Mostly.
Yeah.
I see, remember those early 80s videos where where his left hand is like this.
He's one. Yeah, he backs up on the stick a little bit for that.
Yeah, and if you're
stuff.
not rim shotting every
get some water?
backbeat,
Yeah, go for
it's-
it, man.
If you're not rim shotting every backbeat, it's easier.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. If you're
it's a
hitting the
cheat.
center of the drum, you're not
There's a
gonna.
cheat. You ever use the cheat where you switch to match and to get the perfect rim shot every time you kind of use your leg, the position of where your leg.
Oh yeah,
is. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
you
absolutely.
can't really do that with traditional.
Yeah, right.
It's a cheat, but it's not like there's nothing
No,
wrong
it
with
works.
doing it. It doesn't make
Yeah.
the sound any worse.
You might
It
get
actually
welts
better.
on your thigh, but
Yeah.
it's worth it.
I've got a big
The welts are
callus
worth
that's
it,
grown
yeah.
over the years. No, I don't play enough rock to do that ever. Yeah, I play like
I
jazz
don't,
gigs and
I don't either.
play
I
a
mean, I
couple
just
tunes,
play it
but-
like in my basement when I'm
Sound-
making videos.
Yeah, you sound like you
once
do
in
it
a
every
great
day.
while I
Well,
play
the
a gig. but
PFOZ that he's doing with these other guys,
Yeah.
that's out of hand. I mean, that's like
I
you
wish
gotta
we
see
could. I wish
George
we
is-
could actually play together. It's a virtual band, basically. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
YouTube channel.
Can we,
That's
yeah, it's probably up there. So
you can
so, okay,
find
you
it.
guys
It's
have two
people's.
channels.
It's called People's
Bonz-
Front of Zeppelin.
Okay, cool. So Bonzoleum is your channel, and
Bonzoleum's
then
my
what's
channel.
the one that you're doing?
So mine's Bonhamology.
Bonhamology,
That's
okay,
devoted
cool.
to Bonham's drumming.
I think
And
I've subscribed to both, but everyone listening, subscribe to these guys.
Yeah, and then the one
Cool
that I
stuff.
do that's like the Zeppelin, long distance virtual cover band is called People's Front of Zeppelin.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. I have
They're,
not
they're,
seen
they're
that
great musicians. They're based in different places, though. We've never actually all met in person.
yet. So do you play live while?
no, we
it
build
wouldn't-
the tracks.
the leg would
we
not-
put
yeah.
it. Yeah, that's basically
Prohibitive.
impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when are they going to come out with that technology? You'd have to pay extra for a really fast connection. They probably could do it.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. Well, there are definitely programs that claim
your provider
to do it.
though would have to. Your internet provider would have to have.
Yeah, you have to have like real ultra, I guess, high speed.
We're almost talking about video
hardwired.
gaming at this point.
We need like 11K.
Second video game analogy in one podcast.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with that technology. I just know a couple years ago when we checked into it, we basically realized there's no way because our guitar player is in Dubrovnik, Croatia. So he's really far. Yeah. I think it works best when you're in a closer proximity.
Well, yeah. Plus, too, I mean, you need that. That's got to like travel the speed of light, man. You know, there can be no buffering whatsoever.
Bonham is a drummer, he's legendary worldwide. I imagine. Yeah,
Bonham.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, there's a lot of people and a lot of musicians who sometimes will just dismiss Led Zeppelin from a point of view they've come up with, where they hear the old adages or stories that they were just the bashers and blah blah. So people never expose themselves to listening to Zeppelin. But if you listen to Zeppelin, get into some of their popular songs, and then listen to some of these bootlegs or live shows, I mean, they were like, in a way, they were like jazz. The way they come up with live arrangements that even night to night they still might even mess with and throw each other off. They used to like fool around a little bit. They were you wouldn't see that from like other bands.
Improvising
in rock,
and exploring.
Seldom.
Yeah. I do like the way Bonham tunes his drums, and probably earlier I would like it a little better just because, well, the truth is I shouldn't even talk about Bonham as if I know anything because I really don't know a lot. I know the sizes that he used. I know the band. I've heard all the tunes.
But you know what
you've heard. I mean, you've heard numerous Zeppelin songs, I'm sure, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
Well, you ever like go into a bar? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm drinking a beer right now. I've heard every Zeppelin.
But the difference I think is there's passive listening, I call it, and active or engaged listening.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So a lot of times, people might hear something in a bar.
Actually. Yeah.
If you sit down and put an album on, like
have you
over
bought
there,
the record?
You've got your turntable set up. It looks pretty sweet over there.
Right.
That's an old one from a radio station.
Yeah, so you
I'll
sit down and play that.
Those tubes are probably worth $1 jillion.
Well, I mean,
it's actually more cheap.
Anytime you sit, even if you've got headphones on, you're listening to Spotify or whatever.
Sure.
If you just quietly really listen to any music, you're going to hear things that you miss if you're not actively listening.
Yeah,
if you're passively listening.
That is true. I'm buying a lot of records now, and I kind of have a gap in my knowledge and really because I spent a lot of time with classical music. I've spent a lot of time with jazz, but classic rock, I guess. Mm-hmm. I really like Hendrix.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really like. There's a lot of like blues stuff that I'm really into, but classic rock is a genre where only recently, I bought like a Journey album. I was talking about Steve Smith earlier, and that's great. And listening to it when you have the record in it with like some nice speakers when nothing's distracting you.
Right.
Totally
and you can
different.
really focus on.
So
everything.
I might have one Led Zeppelin record, I think, but I really don't. So tell me more, and I'll buy a record.
Well, but that was the funny thing back
purchase.
in those days. Like everybody looks. I mean, there is a reality now that we are like old timers in a certain sense. Younger kids see the world totally different than we do. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
And it's always moving exponentially
and that's always going to be the
important
case
for us to understand in our levels.
Yeah.
But just with Zeppelin, it was just like I really didn't hear a lot of bootleg stuff till much later. A friend of mine, Joe Bruno, who's a drummer himself, big Bonham fan, good guy. What was I just talking about?
You were talking about Joe Bruno.
Yeah, Joe Bruno.
I'm
sorry. What Joel did is he gave me a vinyl version of the Listen to This Eddie.
Oh, 1977
you know what I mean? So it was really
bootleg.
neat when you put it on the
like
the
listening
record,
to appreciate.
It would be live. It was a relative. It sounded okay, You hear the the pops of the record. It was a really, really cool sound.
Sure. Do you have a record player now? Do you still play vinyls?
I don't. We're gonna make vinyl. My buddy Ty and I are making a record. We're gonna make vinyl.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it'll be
I didn't know that.
$1
I know a place you can go.
You only live once, George.
Go
Steve.
to Erica Records. They'll do it. They'll do like $300 for you.
Do you know how much that might cost?
The whole process probably around $5,000 to $10,000.
Those are the quotes, kind of what we've been gotten.
Because I did it.
Are they
like
local here?
I did it like 6 years ago. They're in LA.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you guys one of my.
But
records,
it's good
though.
product, right? I mean,
nice.
they do a good job, right? It's
they did a great job
seem
on
to
mine.
skimp.
I did mine. It would be a little less for you, I think, because I did mine on. It was all recorded on tape. So it's your band.
Oh, wow.
Tell me about where you play. Yeah.
Well,
You guys like play bars and stuff?
Well, no, he's out in California.
This is a virtual project.
This is
basically.
a virtual product that I have.
I see.
This fella Ty Vare had contacted me to play drums on his stuff, so he'd send me kind of the tracks without the drums.
Sure.
I'd play and put the drums on there.
Right.
And then what we did was we decided to kind of make an album from the ground up. So I have a whole bunch of drum tracks where I go in and I compose while I play.
Okay.
The thing is, I haven't found a reliable way to kind of get the sound that I'm singing while I'm playing and not mess up the mix from the room microphone.
Are you guys doing Zeppelin tunes, or are you doing?
It's all original stuff.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, totally original. So we have the fourth song coming out in a little
better,
while.
yeah.
It's nice. It's
it's good stuff. Man.
yeah. But now Ty in this
and
band,
the vocalist. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
the
no.
vocalist is the same guy who sings with People's Front of Zeppelin.
Oh, cool.
which is
So
PFOZ.
Yeah, and that's sort of the
So maybe in a
our connection kind
in
of brought
a
us
similar
together.
style
Yeah,
to the Zeppelin stuff. But
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
It's nice. It's
He does a lot of session work in LA, like a lot of commercial work and contracted work. And he
Right.
plays keyboards, he plays guitar, he plays bass,
yeah.
he
He's a
probably
one-man
plays a
band.
little drums, and he sings.
Right.
And he composes, so he's
Extremely talented.
He's a pro, he's been doing that
And
for a
a pro.
long time.
if you asked me
So-
to like write a song in the style of some of these classic rock bands, that would be like really, really impossible for me. Just because, I'm not familiar with the lore. I'm not familiar with the music. I'm a little bit, Be it just growing up in this country, you're always going to be pretty familiar. But I've
Yeah,
always
I
been
grew up
more-
in a neighborhood where hard rock, classic rock, whatever you want to call it, was common. That was the common
It's what
music.
everybody
I
listened
didn't
to.
grow up in a neighborhood where soul music was common.
People were when I
And,
was growing up. People were listening to like Nirvana. That's
Yeah.
a band
When
that
did
I
you
was-
graduate high school? 95, 96?
The
So,
world
2000.
2000. Okay.
I would say, the world got a lot smaller after the internet, obviously, and especially after YouTube. So if you grew up in the post-YouTube era, you were exposed to a lot of different influences musically.
Sure.
The way we grew up, and I'm assuming, you're.
I had cassette
sort of
tapes.
in the-
I remember
so the
cassettes.
cassette era. But the way
My
we grew
first
up was a
purchase.
lot of it was sharing. It was
Sure.
this
Well,
concept
make a mix
of
for
like
someone, yeah,
make
man.
a mix for someone or mixtapes, or turn people on to what you were listening to by having them actually come over.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
listen to music together. So it's really a different world in that respect.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to address was you were saying something about Bonham's popularity and everything. I just take for granted that
Yeah, 'cause
he's
internationally famous. We're now.
I mean, I would say John Bonham along
he's up
with
there. He's got to be like in
along
the top
with Buddy
10.
Rich.
Yeah.
Along with Buddy Rich and Neil Peart and maybe Taylor Hawkins, now especially since he's
Sure,
passed.
yeah.
But I mean, those are drummers that are unquestionably internationally famous.
Keith Moon.
And historically famous, right? Keith Moon, Charlie. Buddy
The late
Rich,
Charlie
Gene
West.
Krupa, historically, but again, it's becoming a smaller world through social media, and that's so people are now a lot of younger musicians are aware of who Art Blakey is. Let's say,
Yeah.
And they've ready
Or-
access to
It's
any
interesting
multitude
with
of
these channels. Do you guys ever look
things
at
to
who's
watch,
watching? Because you can look from country to country.
Not
and you
much.
can-
I've
it's
done
just-
it a
it's
little
fascinating,
bit. We've
kinda.
done it like with
Yeah.
PFOZ. You probably have with
yeah,
your
it's,
YouTube
mine's mostly
channel.
like United States, Canada,
Ours
Germany.
tells
England.
us who's
And-
into like vintage drums, which is a really
Ye-
small niche. But,
Yeah.
that particular drummer is in a way even a smaller niche. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
One thing I think we can all agree on is that that we all share in common is that I think our audience is about 98% women.
for
Right?
sure. That sounds about right. Yeah. That's funny. It's also true though.
not really.
I think about YouTube in particular. I think just mostly men watch it in general. So even
Maybe that
Yeah,
may be,
YouTube
but I
is
know when it gets down to the specifics of like drumming and
Sure.
a drum-related channel,
and then it's even more.
but that's changing because I mean, in reality, of course, there's
Yeah.
a lot of female drummers, but
when you guys were in high school,
many more so now.
many more so.
and
now.
numerous-
Did you
they're
guys,
badasses.
do drums in high school? You probably did. Right?
Yeah.
No, I
In
played
band or
drums in
anything?
those days,
I
but I
did.
never played in band. I wish I
You
had.
didn't?
No.
No.
Oh, at Oak Park, I just assumed you were in the.
I went to Fenwick.
Oh, you went to Fenwick?
Yes, but I did not play in the band.
Yeah, yeah.
I had the drums at home.
Where's Fenwick? Is that?
It's in Oak.
It's an old park a block and a half from my house. So I went to my first 10
I
years
know
of grammar school, a
OPRF.
block and a half from the house, and then
That's
my
right, I
next
forgot
4
you went
years.
there. Yeah,
frickin'
my
Fenwick.
cousins went there.
All the people I know went to OPRF. which is-
Yeah.
I
there's
worked there
two
for a while. I worked there for a few years.
Nice.
It is not haunted. A lot of people always ask, like, when you worked there late at night, did you see anything? No.
Hemingway's ghost wasn't
Right.
walking the halls.
A land
Ray
of
Crocs.
a land of broad lawns and narrow minds.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what Dude
Oh,
Sickle
that's-
said.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's the quote. Not anymore,
Where are my
though.
penny
Not
loafers?
anymore.
Where are my penny loafers?
Yeah, well, try to think about when.
Now it's narrow
try to think
lawns
about,
and broad minds.
Try to think about when he was living and what he meant.
Yeah, in the 20s.
And then reflect upon the way things are now, and it's
yeah, yeah.
kind of.
I went to Lane Tech High School in the city,
Uh-huh.
and I was in the band and orchestra there.
That's
So
a big old high
That's
school.
kind of where I learned how to read music, really.
Isn't that like Carl Schurz and
Oh, yeah, that was our enemy.
Yeah, right.
Schurz was the enemy.
yeah.
Our rival, I should say. But yeah, Lane's a massive school. It was over 4,000 students when I was
I grew up out in Wheaton. So yeah, when did you guys graduate high school?
87.
87.
84.
You guys aren't like we're pretty close in age. You guys would be Gen Xers, I guess. Right?
Yes, we would be kind of Like, I think
I'm never quite sure about those
Well,
boundaries.
you would be technically because I've looked on.
They don't
Google
really
and I remember
mean that
stuff.
much, but you have to just call it something.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the thing is, I can smell a baby boomer a mile away.
I'm a boomer.
I can tell you
yeah.
that.
But I'm an old boomer. I'm like, you could call me a Gen X because I was born in '85.
Oh no, you're talking about you're
Oh.
a Gen X, not a boomer.
I'm technically a millennial, actually.
A
So-
millennial, yeah. So you're
Oh,
a,
did you say you can smell a boomer?
a baby boomer a mile away?
Okay,
There's a certain
You know,
way-
I automatically thought you were gonna say something about millennials. I didn't assume you'd go.
No,
you'd go
millennials.
for
I think
That's
millennials.
funny.
It seems are so annoying.
Usually
There's
at this
so many
point-
baby boomers and about half of the
Sure.
Gen Xers.
Yeah.
But they don't like.
I didn't even
like,
listen.
They don't
I just
see
assumed.
color.
I
like
plugged in that you were
well, like when
going
we were
for the
kids
millennials.
in 1982, somebody listening to Zeppelin wouldn't be called dead. Listen to Journey.
Okay.
Where now, in the past 20 years, kids.
Oh,
they
yeah,
listen to
lines blur.
anything.
Yeah,
the
they
lines
blur.
blur, and they
That's
don't really
true.
see color. I mean, they get along so much better.
It's better.
God
It's-
bless them. It's-
ultimately, I think it's better. I mean, there's a lot of
I think
thi-
they're
in
hopefully
that
going to save
respect.
the world if we can make it through the next 10 or 20 years. I have all my
What are
faith
my
in them.
kids gonna be called? Zoomers. I think they're called.
Zoomers. Are they Z? Gen Z? Is that
Well,
what
no,
they
I think
say
they're
now?
even younger than that because she's 5 right now. So yeah.
I can't speak with authority about all those,
Yeah, I don't think they've even.
those distinctions.
They haven't-
yeah.
straight.
yeah.
They haven't made the word yet for it.
Well, I just, I think it's
Zoomer
funny that
sounds about
despite the popularity, let's say, of Bonham, because we were talking about him, and that
Sure.
was the point I was going to make, actually, was I just recently was teaching at a music camp, and it was a really great experience, and the students were wonderful, and they were high school students. But in one of the warm-ups, I mentioned something about the YouTube channel, about it being devoted to John Bonham, and I just got a blank stare from the drum students. I was like, "You've heard of John Bonham?" And a couple of them were
That's
like,
funny.
"No." And I just really felt old.
These
in
are-
that
these
moment.
are-
I
yeah.
really felt
They're
that was
also-
like, okay.
You heard of
I'm
Robert
an old-
Fripp?
Yeah.
Anybody here remember Robert
Yeah,
Fripp?
never, forget that. Yeah,
they're jazz cats though, right? So they're the kind.
yeah, but they're
Still,
they're
they
young.
should-
They're in
they
high
should be-
school.
they should
they're
know-
not. They're
they
not
should
like
be
in a jazz
familiar.
bubble.
Yeah.
They have wide ranging tastes, and I'm sure they like their contemporary music of all kinds. But
Sure.
But what I think one or two of them were like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Well, to them, I mean, you gotta remember.
I know who they are.
1992 is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like our
Yeah.
kind of
And they're-
heyday
and
in
they're
the 20s.
16
What
or
is
17.
the story of the name of the band Led Zeppelin?
Oh,
How did it become?
Terry,
'cause
you
I've-
wanna tell
I've
that?
heard
Well,
some
yeah,
things
there was
and-
there was a session. Wasn't Jeff Beck doing a session? And because
they had a different name, right?
And John Atwistle and who else were there? Yeah, they did. Well, they had.
every band did really.
Well, before Zeppelin even formed, Keith Moon said they were talking about a project. If they said all of us doing this session with,
yeah, we should do.
make a record like this. And
Right.
Keith
Right.
Moon supposedly said, or John Atwistle said they can't. Well, they sort of argued about it a little.
Yeah,
they
the-
all would go down like a
the
Led
jury
Zeppelin,
is
you know?
out, right, on
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
said it, but
Yeah.
They'll go-
it'll
like a
go
lead
down like a
plane.
lead.
Was it
You know,
was
like
it a
if the
critic?
It's an
plane turned to
expression.
lead,
It was a critic. that was saying this?
No,
No, it was
Keith.
Keith
It was
Moon.
either Keith Moon or John Entwistle.
Okay.
That's at least that's the
story.
folklore story.
He was saying it about them, like we're gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like we
this is
would
going to
if
go
we-
down like a Led
We'll
Zeppelin.
go down like a Led Zeppelin.
You know, I don't know if they
I love
actually
it.
said we should name it Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But the expression.
Supposedly Jimmy Page remembered it, or somebody
Yeah.
remembered it.
Do people use that expression much anymore?
Well, if they did, I'm
I
sure
feel like it's an older. It's probably more of a British.
Did, because of World War One, there was these horrible Zeppelins everywhere. I bet it was
Right, but I
probably
mean,
an
like,
expression
now,
in England or-
you don't hear that expression much
Oh
now.
God, no. Well, because Led Zeppelin is totally.
And here they would say a
hijacked-
lead blimp.
Has hijacked any
Yeah.
other connotation.
And so they
of Led
removed
Zeppelin.
when Jim. That must have stuck in Jimmy's mind. Obviously, he's just like,
But you know,
I like
check
the.
this out. But you know, Iron Butterfly.
like the
Iron
facetiousness of-
Butterfly came first.
Iron
A
Butterfly.
lot of people think that like Iron Butterfly it was the other way around. So they might have inspired Zeppelin to do Led Zeppelin. You never know. They started from.
I've heard of Iron Butterfly, but I don't know any of their songs.
I believe that
I think-
Inagata Davida song.
I think
I know that
Page.
song.
I think Page is a sponge for, just all kinds of things, music and expressions and ideas, and that must have stuck with him, like the irony.
Isn't it in the Garden of Eden? Is that what he was trying to say?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
too
I
wasted
believe
or
so.
something. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
He's from Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, so Peter Grant, the manager, supposedly suggested they take the A out of lead because people will think it's lead Zeppelin.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was going to be LED.
So hence
but
the
then last
LED.
minute they-
Interesting. Yeah.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. The people think of the Hindenburg when they think of Zeppelin.
It's on the cover of
the
that
humanity.
first record. Oh my God.
It's on the record. Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to listen to that recording, it's Herb Morrison. I think he's with CBS. Listen to it slowed down a little bit because all that old stuff, it makes their voice sound artificially high.
Is that the one to get if you're going to get one record from them for those listening?
Oh, that's a hard.
Because it's actually for me too. Because I'm gonna buy one of their records after this.
I would probably
Four.
say
I would say
do
four.
I'd say four.
I mean, 4 is the best-selling record of theirs by far.
You have Stairway to Heaven. You have Misty Mountain Hop. You have
When the Levee Breaks, Rock and Roll, Black
and
Dog.
Roll, yeah.
But
Battle
it's the
of
most
Evermore.
iconic
Yeah,
with
it's
the
the
most
most
hits.
I also really like
hits.
AC/DC. You guys like AC/DC?
I do.
Oh yeah, we often hear about
See,
AC/DC.
I listened to a lot of punk music when I was, so I do have that. That's more what I was doing.
like
in high
Black
school.
Flag kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you like Meat Puppets and those guys?
Meat-
Like Seattle scene or
what's that?
Puppet.
There's one.
well, weren't they like real influential in Nirvana? Like, did you like Nirvana when you were?
Oh, they
Yeah.
was what's his Dave Grohl, God love him, was in Scream, which was kind of a punk band. And
This was like when I was in high school. I kind of liked all this. It was just like whatever someone. Oh, it's cool. It's new. I'll like it.
Right.
Before that, I was really just doing classical stuff and a little bit of jazz, and then yeah.
How'd your pop feel about punk when you were in your punk phase?
He didn't like a lot of the bands. Yeah.
I can't imagine he did.
I really like the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh yeah.
And that's an interesting band, yeah, because it's I really like the music, but it's a vocal style that just not everyone's really into.
Were you into Wilco or Radiohead?
Not that much. That's Radiohead a little
That
bit.
generation, I think a lot of.
I like stuff that was more hard. Like I really
Oh.
liked Pearl Jam. I
Yeah.
really liked. So it's
Yeah,
funny because
right.
I was into hard rock and metal, and I played like double bass drum. That's like.
Oh yeah, double bet. What'd you have? What was your kit?
I had a double pedal. I didn't have two drums, but I had a Pearl. I had a Pearl Session Select. I believe that's what it's
I remember
called.
those.
It was like wood. It was
Wood
like
finished.
My dad's was just like, the bass drum. It's ridiculous. It's an 18 by 22. Who
Yeah.
needs an 18 by 22?
That became it was the norm for a long time.
right.
It's only recently
And
started going.
it had like the power toms hanging off the stands.
Yeah.
The floor toms were always about to fall over. But I really loved that kit. But
Yeah.
technically, my first kit was actually a Rogers because that's the one that I kind of learned playing with my dad. We would set the two kits up, and it was a Rogers Gold Sparkle, probably
Nice.
like 2012, 16.
Nice.
Might have been
Yeah. Oh my
14.
God! Remember the 2012 16s?
Was he
They were
working
everywhere.
for
Yeah.
Frank's?
Uh,
Don't recall.
He
Your dad?
worked with Frank's drum shop. He would bring them drums
Okay.
that he would kind of refurbish, and then they'd sell it for him. But he
Yeah.
didn't ever work for
He
Frank's
didn't
Drum
really
Shop.
work at the shop. Okay.
No. He was just kind of there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be quite.
So
a
your
while
pop
ago.
is a Chicagoan.
Actually,
Chicago
they're
area.
from Rhode Island.
Oh
yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, not
Oh
from
yeah, he
around
does have that accent.
here. A little bit, yeah.
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 Not too much. You should see the rest of my family. Yeah, it's much less than.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty incredible how when you live in the Midwest for I wish I could go back in time, and see my parents when they first came over. Even in the way I say words, it comes out.
Oh yeah.
The word drawer. How do you guys say that word?
Oh,
Drawer.
some people say draw and some say drawer.
Drawer, yeah.
Is it drawer?
Yeah, drawer.
You go to the
New
East
York,
Coast, and
East
there's
Coast,
like 8 other
it's draw.
variations.
Yeah.
Draw.
It's amazing over here. This country it's such an incredible country. You can just travel and see so many different
Like cultures and
it's
micro
incredibly
cultures
diverse. And
yeah.
I mean, there's certain places where it's a form of English that is indecipherable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I probably sound mostly Midwestern. I think the three of us
It's
sound
like the
mostly
Southwest
Midwestern.
side. It's indecipherable. Sometimes.
You know, I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of people in the world right now. What did you just say about your accent? You said, I'll bet I sound a little Chicagoan.
Midwest,
There's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch that. That are going to be laughing their ass
kidding
off.
me? These guys sound so-
It runs good on regular gas.
But
I think I sound a
Have
little
you guys ever
Chicagoan.
the really,
I mean,
really
that's what it's gonna
old
sound like.
Chicago accent though? Have you guys ever heard that before? The really old
Well,
one?
when you see like news clips and stuff, sure.
So they would say like true instead of through.
Yeah, true to door.
True to door. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
that's
They'd
almost
say
gone.
$5.
It doesn't exist anywhere.
Or $5.
That's not a Midwestern thing. Midwesterners don't say true. Midwesterners say through, right?
Well, believe it. Actually, it's
Most of
kinda
it, but I
like-
think there's some neighborhoods where that's still that tradition is still. See, Chicago,
Just Chicago. Yeah, no,
Chicago's
there's still-
neighborhoods, like,
I miss the city, man.
much
I do.
like the rest of the world. It's become things have kind of like homogenized, I guess. Chicago was a city of neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods had their specific kind of
Sure.
whole thing's going.
cultures going, and accents even.
Yeah, it's
like
always
Southwest
changing.
side is different than
And even let's say
Northwest
the
side.
Irish, then in their
I think that's
group-
an Irish thing, the true thing. Yeah. Go to
yeah,
Ireland,
yeah,
then
in
you
like
might hear that
Gaelic.
same thing.
That's
That
true.
makes sense.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
when Bonham's he's at English, we say 1, 2, 1, 2, T4. That's what he says at the top of Fool in the Rain, doesn't he?
Yeah, where
T4.
was John Bonham from, actually? Tell me something
Birmingham.
about... Yeah,
I think he was a
go into a little bit
Birmingham.
about them. because-
Redditch, Worcestershire.
Okay.
Worcestershire,
Like the
sauce.
sauce. Yeah,
So,
just
it's
like the
wonderful.
sauce.
In
Impossible to spell.
in the Birmingham area.
Yeah.
So he kind of came up in the scene in Birmingham, playing with bands
So
like
is
local
this the
bands.
second British invasion? Or because the Beatles are
I'd
the
say
first?
they were considered, probably the front end of the second invasion.
Yeah, because it was late '60s.
Yeah, like Yardbirds would have been the original, or Cream was probably the delineation, maybe of the second wave, maybe.
Yeah,
I listened
again,
to-
I'm not a
to that-
historian. I don't know accurately
stuff,
what the different eras are, but
Queen would be part of that too, right? Probably, technically.
Queen, I think, kind of made it on the scene about 72.
Okay.
yeah, they're a little
72,
later.
73. Yeah, they're more like, that little later. But I mean, Roger
an
Taylor,
epic era of
an
music.
incredible drummer.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
I wonder how many of those guys were actually like formally schooled, or at least had like formal lessons. I'm sure most
what
of
about
them
Bonham?
got
You guys probably know about him, right? Was he
very little.
Well,
He
so-
got he
yeah, we
had
don't hear-
lessons with a guy. I actually met the guy at the drum pad years ago.
Okay.
I was in the drum pad, and you remember Rusty Jones?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Rusty came in, or he was already there when I walked in. I don't remember, but
I didn't really know him, but
he's
I
real
may have
lively,
met him,
spirited
and-
guy. He's like,
yeah,
"Hey,
people
George, I
talk
want you
about
to
him
meet
all
a
the
couple guys. These guys are from England, and they're in town, and they're for the drum show, I think it was."
Nice.
And he was showing them around, and the one guy's name is Gary Alcock.
Oh, I know Gary. Yeah.
You know him?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Gary
You-
Alcock.
That makes sense, Terry. Don't emphasize the syllable.
So
Regular guess.
yeah,
And I believe it's 2 R's, Garry.
Okay,
and,
sure.
And he was with his friend, and we got to talking, and somehow Bonham came up. I think maybe because he's from Birmingham.
Okay. Yeah, I know him for sure. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so
he's
sad
a
now
drum
the
enthusiast.
international
Yeah, that makes
guys don't come to
sense.
the drum show
Yeah, I mean
anymore.
he's probably up there now too. I would think, right? Because when I met him, that was like at least 20 years ago.
When did
maybe
you start
more.
going to the drum show? And you were never like every year. You never
No,
had a
I
booth
didn't.
or
I didn't go that often.
Too busy
actually.
playing all the time, it
Yeah,
seems. Too
but
busy.
Gary was the one who told me that he gave Bonham a couple lessons.
Do you do a lot of clinics?
I don't do that many clinics actually.
You could. You'd be
Yeah,
you're a
usually
great
when I do
clinician.
Bonham
clinics,
clinic, man.
well, I could do
Yeah,
that.
you
Yeah,
could. You
usually
could
when
do
I do
Bonham.
clinics, they're with a band,
Right,
like
right.
as part of a rhythm section or something.
Yeah.
But there's just the last thing I want to say about this thing was he said Bonham came over, and he played a bit, and he showed him some rudiments and very basic stuff. And he said Bonham was kind of an impatient kid. He was like 16, 15 years old or something.
Sure.
And he only came for like 2 lessons, I think he said. And he said they shared their love of cars because even as a teenager, Bonham had some question about what kind of car he had. So I thought was funny. But he said, he really didn't have like a whole lot of, skill together yet at that point. And,
sure.
And he saw that he obviously had a lot of natural talent.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
he said Bonham just seemed like a restless kid. He just wanted to play.
I think he took like 4 rudiments from him. Paradiddle diddle,
Right,
doubles.
right, the double
super
paradiddle.
fast singles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, his playing
Yeah.
has a lot of forward momentum. That's how I would describe Bonham. It's like an unstoppable force.
Oh, he's definitely momentum-y. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing about like Bonham, like what, like banana, banana on Physical Graffiti. Hey, hey, mama, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
some of those songs
Yeah.
where the guitar or something comes in first. That might
Yeah.
not be the best example. When Bonham comes in, it's
When
kind
he
of like, excuse me,
enters,
everybody, I
yeah.
am now taking over
Right,
the tempo.
exactly.
And it's a little bit slower.
That's true.
Play to me.
That's
That's
true.
awesome.
A lot of
Trademark,
people
man.
talk about how he laid so far back on the beat.
Did they do clicks
But
back then?
he
They
didn't-
probably didn't.
They did. They used them for setup.
Well,
for
for-
tempo setup.
For multi-tracking, but in live?
No, I doubt that.
I don't
No.
think Zeppelin
No, I
ever.
think he
Bonham was the
quick-
Oh,
time
and when you
keeper.
He
say
was the
setup, you're saying they give him a click and then they
yeah,
stop it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. You
that's
can hear
cool.
that clearly at the beginning of the outtake of when the levee breaks.
You're shitting me.
No.
Wait,
You ever heard that outtake?
This is extremely important. Tell me again what you just said.
Why, Terry?
No, you're saying
I thought
that
we
at
were
the-
friends.
Wait a minute here. You said at the head of when the levee breaks, the original.
Yes.
You hear.
You hear dook 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 goond got goond. Yeah. Yeah. I'll send you the link to it. You never heard that? This is
I gotta
great.
tell you,
See?
I am now immediately
Yeah.
demoted from Bonzoleum
Is it-
because
No,
I
no.
have
Really
been
quiet?
saying
No.
that like I find that almost anathema.
Well, but the thing is, that's just so everybody they have they
Anathema.
may not have done it on every.
Anathema.
They may not have done it on every tune.
Wait a
But
minute.
it was like
wait a minute.
It's
wait,
a metronome reference.
Wait a minute.
It's a reference.
You know, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about the drums only here on YouTube.
It's
you
not
hear-
drums only.
See,
It's an alternate mix.
there
It's
are
the
some
original
people-
recording before they slowed it down.
Yes, but
It's
what might be possible is the person who got that might have quantized it and then
that
put a
seems
click
weird,
in.
but I'll tell you why.
But also too,
It
sometimes what they
sounds like an old school
No, my
metronome
God,
run
I got-
through the through
Like-
the monitor. No, it's more like it's got a lot of echo and it's like duck 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 duck.
So it
like
might be
that.
running through the
So
frickin',
it could have been like Jimmy said, give us 120 BPM,
Motherfucker, you gotta-
and then they go
my
duck
punch.
duck.
Can we
duck,
edit
and
out
then it's-
fucks and
but-
shits? I
Okay.
can't
It's
get
all
over-
right.
I
Yeah, it's
have to.
fine. You can
this
swear all you want.
This
This
has
is
to
a very
be.
spirited-
This has to be
spirited
settled
conversation.
immediately.
Yeah. Well, what
I
I would
am
like to-
demoted. I am no longer Bonzoleum because I have
What I-
like a total jackass.
Okay, I need to go back now and listen to the isolated tracks from the second album because
See,
there might be,
Let
and
me
I'm
tell
not
you
sure,
something. No.
there might be another one of these kind of
let me know when I
tempo
can have the floor
references.
because it's important because my
Okay.
brain is.
Okay.
Let me know. Now is a good.
Take it
Okay.
away.
Here's the thing, because there's a lot of drums only stuff, and even some Led Zeppelin stuff. Where what some people what they did is they quantized it and they put a click in the front of it. Other people they didn't quantize it and they put a click in front of it. So it's a reference for you if you want to play along to the thing. It's an aftermarket thing.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I
This
would bet my
doesn't
life
sound like
that's-
that. And another
who knows?
reason for that is there are tapes. There's this was a bootleg before it came out. I think on the 4th album bonus disc, but the bootleg versions of these studio sessions. I don't see why they would have done that for something like that. Like this has got to be a tape that got dubbed from somewhere. It leaked out. Because that's been around since the 70s or 80s.
Well, this is a bigger issue for me than the 15-inch, 26-inch bass drums.
Really? But here, let me
this is
just
earth-shattering.
say something.
Where did they record mostly? Did they do like Abbey
often
Road?
often
maybe?
Many different
Yeah,
studios,
yeah.
not Abbey Road. They recorded at Olympic. They recorded at
Usually it'd be
Island.
Olympic.
They recorded at Headley Grange,
And then
which
they
is a house.
record it like Headley
where
Grange,
they had a
which is big
portable.
house.
They had a
Be a fun
mobile
session.
They had a mobile.
But they
part of
did
it.
they had a bunch of different sessions all the way from like 1970.
third
to,
album
like,
up through
74.
Yeah,
I'd love to see like what they were doing because by this point you've probably got enough mics on the drums where the engineer's playing a role in the. and especially like the polished albums.
Well, they say that Bonham was extremely touchy about how the drums were mic'd, and he didn't like a lot of mics. He actually, people talk about the Glyn Johns method on the early album, on the first album, because he was the one who engineered it. Yeah. And his method was just simply to put a mic in the front, a mic behind,
3 mics,
and
one
maybe
off
a
by
mic
the
on
floor
the
tom,
snare.
right?
One sort of off to the side behind the
floor tom.
and then a mic out front. But not every Zeppelin album was recorded that way.
Right.
But without photos of the sessions, you don't know
Which
what
we've
was
been
going
looking
on.
for since the 50s. We want people to start
we were going to talk
bringing
about
in studio
the tuning.
photos.
So when he tuned his drums with like felt, right? Early on, just a felt.
His batter bass drum had almost always had felt.
You mean the muffling?
Yeah. How did he
He
tune
used
a
a felt
drum?
strip usually on the back of the bass drum
Batter
head
head.
only.
On the batter.
On the
head.
batter
So he
side.
tuned his drums a lot like
A big band.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like big
And that's
band
really
drummers.
cool because
And
no one does that
but I would
anymore.
say
Right,
I would say
right.
even slightly
sounds
higher
so
than your
good.
regular big band tuning. At least
It
your
depended
calfskin.
on it really
Yeah, yeah.
depended on the era. Like on the first album,
This is like
He
my
was-
favorite thing about his drumming, actually, because everyone else, probably more muffling. And when did they invent the Power Stroke? Because that's a big thing.
That came out in the 80s.
Because once that came out, everyone used it in the whole world. And actually,
Well,
I'm not against it.
but
It's
a lot
like,
of people
okay,
were
it's just
putting
so ubiquitous.
most people just put linens in their bass drums.
Yeah, I've seen that.
sheets, pillows,
I've seen
all
that.
that kind of
Brick
stuff.
and a pillow.
Most rock
Me and
drummers
Jake,
did that.
This is hilarious. Jake he could say about this. There was a guy who he had like glued 4 different layers of fabric, and then had like a big pad to the head. It was, and it went around. It was really meticulous the way he did this.
Like
It was
a moleskin.
It's so
I felt
wild
bad
what people
taking
do.
it apart because it
Like so much work went into
Yeah.
it.
Well,
it's funny
Do you remember
because-
dead ringers?
Uh,
They were foam rings that you glue to your head.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They
Those
were
were on some. Those were on some like church drums I played on historic.
Yeah.
You could glue them maybe under the
Well,
head.
Yeah, you glued them under the head. They had a
sometimes what people do is
adhesive.
They get weatherproofing, and they wouldn't necessarily be round. They sort of be like little.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
But there were also the things that had the plastic molding where you put the same kind of things, but they wouldn't be attached.
I
to the
have
drum
those
head.
actually.
Yeah.
You guys
Remo
want some?
somethings
Yeah,
or-
they.
But, you know-
I ordered rings. I wanted
Yeah.
the Remo rings.
Yeah.
The ones that are just plastic.
Plastic, yeah.
And they sent me those. So I have like a million of those. So if you guys know anyone who wants them,
Oh.
almost give them away.
Absolutely. But that's the thing on Bonham's Rezo head. There's something that a lot of us diehard Bonhamites and Zeppelin people have uncovered.
Sure.
Is that in all the pictures of all his kids, even a couple with the stainless, which is harder to see,
Sure.
there is some kind of a pinstripey or what did you
Power
call it?
stroke
power
looking.
stroke type apparatus.
Yeah.
and we're not
But
sure
you
if
can't
it's
tell
done
what
I
it
with-
love.
is.
I actually really like pinstrip.
But we're not really sure
pinstripe
if
heads.
it's
I
done
like
with a ring of plastic,
I
or
never
if it's
cared.
actually a circle of drum head. Like, so one would be sort of the inverse of the
You
other.
guys know when pinstripes were invented?
I think in the 70s, possibly late 70s or early
They
80s.
predate Power Stroke, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
I would think so. Yeah.
And then back then you have the fiber
never-
skin 1, which no one ever sees anymore, which looks
Yeah.
more like a Renaissance head almost.
Yeah.
And then you have the fiber skin 2, fiber skin 3. I know a lot about drum heads.
Did the fiber skin one,
More
was that
than
the
I
one
ever
that
thought I
peeled
would.
a lot? Was that the one that peeled a lot?
Yeah,
it seemed
well,
like
actually,
there was
that's
string in it or
no.
something,
Actually,
right? Like
fiber
a-
skin 1s weren't too bad. The 2s peeled. The 2s peeled really bad.
Is that because there were
And-
2 layers or something?
Well, yeah.
They would bubble.
See the
and
ones,
then-
you know that thing that looks like a calf head? That's the 2s, and then that stuff would come off. The 1s,
Yeah.
they look like a crosshatch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right,
You could
exactly.
You know,
Right.
Like a wallpaper almost.
Yeah.
And they had a texture to them.
They sound kind of
Like
good,
you said,
actually,
more like
too.
a Renaissance.
I have them on a kit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys see
They're
the
really
pearl,
dry.
The pearl kit over
The
there?
orange one?
I think.
No,
Kinda
this is-
orange looking?
You probably didn't even notice it because there's so much cool stuff over there. So this is it's a rosewood. There were only like 4 made. It was Jack Mouse's actually, and it's a rosewood. I'll show you when we go back.
Sonar?
Oh, wow.
Pearl.
Pro.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
a pearl from the 70s
Wow.
and like late 70s, early 80s, and he has almost all the fiber skin 1s on it, which I
Yeah.
was like,
Oh,
this is so cool. I haven't seen one of these in forever because they're all thrown away by
Well,
now.
one thing I was going to say
We
about
used to have a
Bonham,
bunch of those.
Bonham's
They're nice.
muffling, Bonham's muffling and his bass drum changed over the years. You know that
He used clear heads, right? Or maybe coated.
No, not
Maybe even
always.
coated.
He didn't always use the same thing. It depended on the kit. So, for example, like the maple thermal gloss kit,
Right.
He always had coated heads, probably a smooth white, most
Yeah, I
definitely,
think definitely
smooth
there's
white on the
sometimes
front,
there's a smooth white on
and the rear,
you see the
the
reflection
batter
of it?
side
It's like
was
that,
just a
right.
coated white head with a felt
Right.
strip, but he would often have crumpled newspaper, likely crumpled newspaper inside, which you could see.
kit.
You
In
could
the
kind
bass
of see it in the bass drum.
Maybe about this
Crumpled
deep.
newspaper.
Maybe
That's
about this
another
deep.
big old
Not a
big
whole,
band
yeah, oh
thing.
yeah.
Never done that before.
Yeah,
Oh, that's an
sometimes-
old big band thing. My dad used to put crumpled newspaper
So
in.
we're gonna do a video that compares different types of bass drum
Of muffling, yeah.
I think that just made the
Well,
list.
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what this thing.
gotta try
I
that.
do that.
What do you
I
do?
use
I do it
I
too.
use shredded newspaper.
I use shredded
Where do you put
newspaper.
it? Do you
in the
just-
bottom, and you just have it so it's
I sort of
touching-
fluff it up.
Yeah,
because
it's
what
sort of
happens
lightly
is
touching
the bass drum
both
hits,
heads.
It activates the heads to resonate. The newspaper gets unsettled for a second,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it settles back down, so it acts like a natural. It's a perfect muffling.
Yeah, it's
a-
it gives a really nice effect,
Like
And
a natural gate
But
kind
but
of
he
in a certain
stopped. You
Interesting.
don't you don't
We've
see.
never tried that
But
before.
with the
I
Well,
used to-
you can see the shadow of it in
Right.
the
Whomp.
bass drum for a while, and then once you start seeing this ring, this mysterious ring, whatever that is on the reso,
Then that went away.
that's gone.
Yeah, right.
And then he never.
you
used
never
it
really
again.
see it again.
It's either
But-
so a pinstripe or maybe it's
Not a
funny,
pinstripe, but
you
like a
guys know
power
what?
stroke type thing.
My favorite muffled bass drum sound is Slingerland, 1970s or 80s, with 18 or 20, maybe a 22, with no front head with a pillow in it.
Oh, really?
That's my favorite.
Like that
muffled
hard
bass drum sound.
Yeah.
It's just
I
so
can't-
it's so perfect, and you put the mic kind of right where you would. What do you guys think of the portholes? Because if you like Bonham's bass drum sound, maybe did they use portholes? I don't think they were
Never.
yet.
Well,
Never.
Yeah,
supposedly,
so you
I
like that.
remember reading something where John Paul Jones said, or somebody said, we didn't even cut a hole in John Bonham's head till the last record. I swear I read that somewhere.
Oh,
It might be
really?
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When
You don't see it
when
in the
s-
photos
You don't
from
see
the
it in the
session.
photos. You
Yeah.
don't.
Some people
because they
really
photo-
like that, and think
I
it's
don't like
essential.
that. I mean, I'm primarily a jazz drummer, so
Sure.
having a porthole whenever I see one, I just shake my head.
Well, you know what it is?
You
It's
shudder.
It's an
Yeah, I
entirely,
just go, oh.
but it's an entirely different tone.
It
You
gives
still-
you-
like a good sound man will still get low end out of a wump that
Well,
doesn't have a hole.
I can see
Yeah.
what they're going for because it gives you the I'll do it.
Yeah,
That's
it
what-
gives you that.
It's air.
It gives you
hitting the
yeah.
microphone diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those-
Diaphragm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does.
Yeah, right.
It maxes out the diaphragm so it flatlines. So it's actually
Well, it gives you a nice wump.
it's distortion. That's what it is. Technically, it's distortion very quickly that gives you like a really. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's
No, I don't
yeah,
think. I don't think that it's so much of a bad thing. Wait,
Wait, are you talking about the pillow? Or are you talking
No,
about
not
the?
the pillow.
You're
This
talking
is
about
a
the regular?
porthole.
Yeah,
This is
porthole.
I just
porthole
don't
with
like
like
how
a-
I
it
got
so-
you. Okay,
I
a
just
mic
don't like how
right
it
in it.
sounds
Oh,
when I'm
yeah.
playing it.
I was thinking.
I mean,
That's
for
true, yeah.
recording, I know I understand that it's beneficial for recording. I just don't like the sound of it when I'm playing it.
Not for
Generally, when there's a porthole, it just feels different to me. I don't like the sound of the bass drum.
But
Heads don't
but then what happened?
jive
Once double
together.
bass got
Yeah.
popular,
Same. Yeah.
when double bass got popular, a lot of engineers, whether live or studio, would like to add click
Right.
to the bass drums.
And
so
you can
can
do that with
delineate
EQ.
the. Yeah, but that's not really.
You guys know how you can also get that? You take a lapel mic or a
lavalier.
mic. I always call them lapel mics
Well, they are called that.
because you put a mic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
lavalier mic,
Lapel
and
mic.
you tape it to the bass drum and you dangle it right over where the batter
Where the
head
batter
is.
hits?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, that's
Where the beater hits? Wow.
That's a
Nice.
cool way. And then you EQ it. Usually you have to switch the phase because it'll just cancel out. But you EQ all the lows out of it and then keep the highs, and then switch the phase, and it'll give you that really
Attack.
nice.
Wow.
And then you can do that with the porthole without. Like I said though, me personally, I really like just one of the coolest kits I ever played on was a Slingerland 18, 10, 12, 16, and I think it was like Black Oyster, and it was a one head. So the toms only had one head.
Oh, I know what
Power
you mean.
toms.
Factory was there?
They called it like the
was
bebop
Was
kit
there
or
metal
something.
chrome protectoring on where the head was supposed to be?
Oh.
On the concert side.
I think I remember
It
seeing that.
might have
Lovely
had
to
that.
do that,
Yeah,
too, with
Yeah.
I think it might have had
They
that.
would put
the-
like a
the
little,
edge.
to
And it
keep
was
it from
painted,
chipping.
It was painted on the inside brown, which is a very specific Slingerland era. And this
What was the finish?
this
of that?
bass drum sounds so good.
You still have it?
No, we finally sold it. It was tough to sell, actually. My buddy brought it. It was a consignment kit.
What was the finish?
Wow.
There's a video of me playing it on YouTube.
Black
though.
Pearl? Black
Black,
Diamond?
like
I
a
think it was
like
Black
an-
Diamond Pearl, yeah.
Black Diamond Pro.
Or maybe, yeah, I think. Yeah, it wouldn't be oyster because they didn't make oyster. Yeah, pretty sure it was that. It was super cool. Might have been blue. Might have been blue, midnight blue pearl.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think it was midnight blue, which is actually kind of cooler. Yeah, it was a really sweet kit. It was so hard to sell though, because and I was like, God, don't you guys understand how cool this drum set is?
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is? It's just when you have a permo, no reso head, that's hard for a lot of people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You can't. You'd ruin it by converting it.
This had wait. What do you mean a permo?
No, I'm just saying if you said that they didn't even have bottom head.
You're right.
mounts,
Yeah,
that's a big turnoff for.
We call it a story. Yeah, when we list stuff, if there's a long story, if it's like a really long, explanation of why this is like this, and that's one of those where it's not just like real simple. Usually, this is what it is, all original. Buy it, or someone else is gonna get it.
Yeah, right.
That's how we like to write.
Well, we do love what's the kit they have in the other room that has the 220s, the Ludwig kit. The 2 rack toms, you have 2 20-inch bass drums. Is that?
Well, there's a Rogers in there with 2 18s. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, there is
Champagne,
that.
I think.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
But what's the Ludwig you
Very
guys
cool.
have up?
Oh,
You have
is
a
it a
Ludwig.
green sparkle?
Is it green sparkle? Do you have an original
two
green
20s?
sparkle with 2 20s and 2 rack toms and
That
a floor
would be
tom?
new. I'm not sure.
I thought I saw a vintage kit you guys have with 2 20s.
Yeah, but I guess it
I
wouldn't
can't
be new.
remember
I
the
don't.
finish,
I don't think my dad would ever get green sparkle. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That one was on the floor. There was a green sparkle double bass drum kit on the floor, and it was smaller bass drums.
This was back when we were last year.
No, it was in the room today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have so many drum sets. I'm just trying to get through them. I have to one of the big parts of my job is I have to take all this stuff and just try and categorize it and just sell it.
Yeah, right.
And it's really
Well, it forces you to really be sort of impartial.
I
You
guess so.
sold the Bonham,
I would say.
stainless, the Dunnet kit.
in about 3 seconds because we underpriced it.
Yeah.
Just like you said, actually.
Yeah.
So whoever got that, lucky you.
They got
a good
They'll
deal.
probably listen
Yeah.
to this. They might even just find it if
They
they
got a
search,
good
'cause
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put
I was
John Bonham in the
tempted, but
keywords.
I have a steel kit now. So.
I was tempted too. I just
Bonham, did he have a steel kit at one point?
Bonham had
Yep.
a steel kit from 76, late 76
Okay.
until the end.
So yeah, that's a
You know.
and then that would be a 14 tom, yeah.
Well, he messed with the tom size
he
from
had
from
15.
He
He
had
had a
12 by
15 by
15,
12.
and then for the last tour, he made
He
it
had
a
a
10
14 by 10.
14. Yeah. So that's how you can tell the
a big
late
drum.
Bonham pictures.
Yeah, the
You
late
can see the
Bonham-
separate
exactly.
lugs.
Yeah.
You know, and he's usually has sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Remember those 70s German,
true.
like those Munich.
Yeah,
ABBA
their
frickin'
last tour
sunglasses.
was in the summer of '80, and then they
Are
were
there
supposed
any
to come.
sprites or anything in there?
Just got water, but I can grab you. I do have some.
There
over
were
there.
sprites over
Yeah.
there. Can we send for a
Well,
porter?
sure, or one of us can.
No, it's.
Jake, are you still here? Yeah. Could you grab a Sprite?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You grab a couple.
You're
of
the
them?
best.
I will pay
Get
you
a couple.
cash.
Get a
No
couple.
cans. 141.
141, cool.
You have 30
Okay,
minutes. We'll make
pretty
it.
I'm
good.
good
We
for
can
like
do 30.
20 or so. Yeah,
All right, sweet. So what's the order?
Maybe some sprites in the can.
I'm good.
Thank you.
you have to do some
mine.
editing here.
Oh no, actually, honestly, this kind of stuff is cool. Little.
And there it is.
Little real life creeping in
Terry's
the proceedings. Yeah, slow pour.
You have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff, if it's warm and then you cool it real fast, it'll blow your head off because they make like bottles,
Oh,
and when you undo the metal,
Oh,
is it
gotcha.
pressurized? Does it have a pressurized thing in there? You know what I mean?
Oh, like in the Guinness?
No.
Like that
Yeah.
little teeny
no,
thing?
not a. That wouldn't be a Belgium thing. That's draft. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, right. That's right. Because it
Yeah.
adds like
to oxygenate
gas.
it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, get something along those lines.
Where did you get the Gretsch glasses?
Yeah, these are cool.
From
Those are-
Gretsch.
You just get stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we take a couple? Do you have any extra?
I might. I'm not sure.
You could probably get them
It's
on
a
eBay.
it's a
I
great
could
glass, though.
definitely. There's some Maxwell swag I can give you. I might be able to hook you up though. Cause yeah, Terry. Yeah, man. I wanted to talk about your channel.
Oh, the Bonzoleum channel.
Yeah. There's just some cool Ludwig stuff that I learned from you way early on when I first started. Because I know a lot. I know a lot about Gretsch. Gretsch, we've always
Which
sold.
I don't know a lot about.
Right, yeah, and Gretsch. My dad, he's probably Rogers would be his like main. He knows more about.
I would
Rogers than
agree. He was
anybody.
Mr. Rogers.
And then Mr. Rogers, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
More
other
like Mr.
Mr.
Dynasonic. Actually.
Yeah, really. He was the one who really, I think really pulled the
Sure.
When I first got into collecting, people were like Dynasonic. They
Yeah,
were all about
don't-
radio
A
kings,
lot of the
and
times
then
they
right
don't.
after.
The old ones, like the wood ones, like they won't sound all that great, but they're super rare. And you
super
really have to
rare.
know what you're doing to tune them. And you can't get replacement snares easily, especially you couldn't in the 90s. Now you can. So you're dealing with.
Well, the funny thing is, I always hated the sound of a Dynasonic.
They're dry. They're super
Oh,
dry. They're
yeah,
a lot
they-
like
Yeah.
a super sensitive or every company has a version of that, a version where they're trying to
like a wood super sensitive. If Ludwig still made wood super sensitive, that would have been cool. If
Gretsch really didn't do that, did they? Did they have a drum that was
Bonham? Did Bonham use a super sensitive?
No,
always a Supra,
Super,
according to the pictures.
And that is the drum. That is, if someone has a studio and they need one snare drum, probably a Ludwig Supra is the way to go.
That's typically, I think, how it's been. Yeah, or even acrylites. When the acrylites were relatively cheap a few years ago, a lot of studios, people get them for like $65.
Gretsch never had a system.
I would say the acrylite,
sensitive tuning
I don't remember
snare drum, did they?
I don't remember.
Or maybe they did in the 40s or something.
But the funny thing
early
is,
50s.
No,
but
Gretsch
nothing through
Gretsch is one of the more conservative companies. They never. Everyone else was always trying to reinvent the wheel. Gretsch really just stuck with what they did.
Right.
And they tend to change a little less. And And like Slingerland has about 100 strainers in 50 years.
The
Gretsch
TDR.
has like 4.
Remember the TDR?
Maybe like
Right.
6.
Yeah,
but
right.
really not
That's
that many.
true.
And
Yeah.
Ludwig has like almost as many as Slingerland. Slingerland had
I don't
even
know.
more.
I don't know how many in the
P83
past. How many
and
years?
The P85.
So they have the P83, which
I'm not
then
as
became
familiar with the
P85,
newer ones. Yeah,
right. And
right.
then they had the classic strainer.
They had a
go-
clamshell.
the beer
before
tab.
that.
We're talking versus Slingerland, so we should probably go back to before Slingerland was defunct. So
Oh yeah, which was the later than
I
you
mean,
think.
I just find it interesting
Slinger
that
was around, I
Gretsch
think, a
never
little
really
longer.
had like that either orchestral or highly sensitive type snare.
like a symphonic strainer,
Well, like a
sort of thing.
Dynasonic or a super
Gretsch's
sensitive.
snares sound boxy, and
They do. They're very boxy.
which is it's a thing,
and they're criticized.
But
a
yeah,
lot
it's
for
not.
it. Like
it's
almost
maybe-
like by default they have a sound, but
Yeah.
maybe their quality, of
No,
engineering.
there's a
wasn't so
reason.
good.
No, it has not.
With
it's,
with that.
well, it's a huge
snare bed?
a huge
Yeah.
snare bed.
Yeah.
But actually, Terry, funny that we were talking about snare beds.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I learned from your channel, the first thing I learned from your channel, the first time I saw it ever, it was about the early Supras and the snare bed, and how there are some aluminum Supras that have the like the kink or whatever you call it.
Like
in
they
snare bed.
press they
Yeah.
set it and they press. And
Talk
it sort
about
of
it. Yeah, talk about
it.
it.
Dents
Yeah.
up the bottom. But that was a practice that a
fascinating.
lot of companies back in the day used to do. It was what was done, and in those days, a brass was used or a copper alloy was used, in my opinion, because it took the plating so well.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're going
Right.
to plate something else that isn't brass, you got to put a copper plate on it, and then nickel, and then chromium. So I think brass. I mean, it got a little more expensive. Maybe Ludwig went to the aluminum shell.
Well, so yeah,
in
the
60.
they had the
Oh, thank you, brother.
They had the
Yeah.
brass drums, which are really heavy. You can always tell.
Yeah.
But
They're heavier.
as they switched to the Lud alloy, which is
Lud alloy?
aluminum, essentially,
Which only has two L's, one at the front, one later. It's
Yeah.
not Lud alloy like an alloy.
right. So marketing,
Clarification.
marketing. They didn't want to say aluminum, although aluminum was kind of considered space age stuff.
Oh hell yeah! That's the thing. That was when I said with William II, when I brought up the pop metal thing, and boing, 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 boing. But we talked about that earlier. We won't bring it back up.
Yeah, sure. But it's fascinating. So you have these. We get drums in from all eras from Ludwig, and you'll get Ludwigs that, and this is all original, that have a brass shell that's chrome over brass with steel hoops. You'll get brass shells with brass hoops, chrome over brass hoops. You'll also get
The Lud alloy with brass hoops.
Yes, and those are the
Sometimes.
confusing ones because they're heavier.
Well,
and the way you tell is the snare bed. But even more rare is because usually when you look at the snare bed, if it's crimped, it's going to be a brass drum. But there are very few.
99% of the time.
Yeah, but there are very few that are aluminum. And I checked it. You take a lug off inside of it.
Oh,
you
totally.
Scratch it a little
I
bit.
own one.
If it's
I have a
gold,
5x14. Well,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
It's brass.
They
It's
switched
not, it's aluminum.
the material. They didn't necessarily switch the material and the snare bed process simultaneously. Seems like they switched to Lud alloy or aluminum when they came out the acrylites, which the first ones were wet. They were one piece welded. But I have seen Lud alloy with brass hoops.
I think I might have. I think my '68 Supraphonic has brass hoops.
Well, you
And
know
who
what's
knows
funny?
if they
And
were
it might
put
not.
on.
Yeah.
What's funny is you normally won't ever see brass hoops after about 63 or 4.
Well, brass hoops are pretty rare, yeah. So,
But there's different.
know where they're
but-
triple flange
But here's the
brass
thing: there's different
Yeah.
versions. Like there are some Ludwig brass hoops that are a little later before they went to steel. Right. Where the snare gates are rectangular and they look like they should be steel, but they are indeed brass. I've seen that on jazz festivals and on Superphonics.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I want to bring this up because I had found one. I found a 1968 chrome over brass drum. The serial number put it at 1968. When I bought the drum, it had. But here's the thing: it's chrome over brass, and it's one piece welded. It's made the same way as the early 60s, except it doesn't have the curl over at the flange. You know the flange, 45-degree flange?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Well, the original early 60s ones, late 50s, early 60s, had a curl.
Oh.
There was like you could feel like a curl.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and I remember you talking about in the
but
video. I know exactly what you're talking about.
1968, I found this drum, and I was the only one. Everyone I said, oh, it's got to be a one-off, And then on eBay about 3 years ago, somebody sold the same thing, and they said there was a fella in California from Drums, whatever, who ordered a certain amount of them. And you always hear the 200 number. Remember they used to say the 200 proto-acrylites or the 200. I mean, I don't know who came up with that 200 number, but I don't buy it.
It's
It's
cool.
applied to so many.
What about those? The finish kind of changed on acrylites. There are like earlier ones, and there are some that like almost aren't even. What is it? A lacquer or something on it? Whatever that.
Well, I think eventually by the end they
acrylites.
started painting them, almost putting like a thicker paint, which actually makes them to
Enamel or
me
something?
sound better because it slightly deadens the
Right.
drum.
Does it look shinier? Somehow?
Well, do you remember the
Yeah,
original?
and some of them are shinier. The '60s ones. They're
Yeah.
shiny '60s.
Well, they're almost
Yeah.
frosty looking.
Yeah,
They look like
yeah.
they're frosted with like.
I think we're
you know-
talking about the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and by 1970, I think they slightly dumbed them down a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're still
So those
kind
are
of
earlier.
shiny, but they don't have that like anodized frost or whatever. And then not long after after that, they look. And plus, too, that's less labor. You don't have to polish the shell, so it's cheaper too. And plus, you don't want to cannibalize the Supras, you know.
Yeah.
But then by the late,
Did
in
they
the
start-
70s into the 80s, they were like almost painted with like a
Did they start
glommy
making
paint.
the acrylites because chrome doesn't stick to aluminum? very
No,
well?
I think
I
what
think
they
it was
did
a lower
was,
budget
it was
line, right?
Yeah,
it was
they
more
wanted,
like for students or
Yeah.
entry level, because a lot of those drums I think ended up in cases for like
Yeah.
music,
You're
store
right.
lessons.
Yeah.
and
My high
stuff
school
like
had
that.
one.
Yeah.
Everyone's.
I think that was
Yeah.
really
It still
common.
does,
and,
yeah.
and back then, I don't know what they retailed
Well,
for,
and
but
they sounded
if you
really
could get,
good.
if a Supra was 200 and an acrylight was 120 or something,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of parents,
cheaper than that, man.
well, that's what I'm just using as an example.
No,
That
right.
that's a no-brainer for parents.
Here's the thing with Ludwig,
It's almost the same drum.
No,
It's
but
less lugs.
Well,
They're
you got to
8
remember
as
how
opposed to
popular
10, I think.
wood
Right.
was popular all through into the 50s, and then the 50s metal started coming back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Ludwig, the only metal shell they had was the Superphonic or the Super Sensitive or the Super 400.
Right.
So then they needed to come up with like a price point of a metal drum instead of people getting like like back before acrylites, you'd have a 6-lug Pioneer. That was
Right.
the student
Right.
drum.
Right.
So they needed to sort of have a slightly dumbed down metal version. But ironically, the acrylites for the first 7 or 8 years, they look beautiful. That frosty finish. is
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly.
Yeah, they're
You
really
know?
nice.
Yeah, I think those are pretty coveted now too.
My favorite drum ever to play, snare drum I think I've ever played, is like the 20s era brass shell Ludwigs.
The welded.
Yeah, and everything's brass. Every little piece. The tension rods are
The tubes.
the clips, everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. And then if they have a calf head on there, I really like it too, because it's just you get this like pop from a rim shot.
Yeah.
that's just so
Distinct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny though. Nowadays, with the plastic heads, the brass and plastic combined can be a little excessive. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. I have, because I've played just about every drum you could ever think of with just about everybody. So have you ever had someone complain about a brass snare drum that it hurt their ears when you
Yeah.
hit rim shots?
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yep.
People like the aluminum steel combination
Yeah.
with plastic.
Right.
With the all brass sounds great with calf, but then and that is I think an
it cuts.
interesting
Yeah, it really cuts.
right.
the
And
brass.
it's like
it
a-
hurts.
the
We're
brass
used
is-
to
it's
it.
like a hunk.
Especially
We're
if you
used to
tune it up
but they're
tight.
not. Yeah.
Especially if you tune it up tight, obviously.
Definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
You hit one of those rim shots, man.
Yeah.
that-
But you know, I
blow your
always
head off.
prefer my favorite metal. I love bronze. People don't understand the difference between brass and bronze. Like think of all those drums that were made of brass, and then Ludwig in the later '70s when they brought back the Black Beauties. I think the
Yeah.
shell was actually a bronze alloy, which is
They
copper.
say BZ on them, I think, stamped.
Well,
in
yeah,
it.
they'd see BZ,
Right.
B sometimes. What was the other one? Sometimes you'd see. But the thing is bronze at least from cymbals, do you guys play brass cymbals? No, all their cymbals
No,
are bronze.
they're
There's more sonorous, right?
Yeah.
So, you know.
They're also the main reason for bronze.
I love a bronze
cymbal
Supra.
Is it's bronze is 80% copper, 20% tin.
Well, that's one particular alloy.
Well, B20. It's what Zildjian uses.
Yes,
it's what
but
most cymbals are.
bronze has tin.
Right.
Brass doesn't. Brass is zinc.
Yeah, exactly. And bronze, the cymbals, they can deform and then form right back. That's why.
Yeah, they're more ductile or whatever.
Especially, if you're doing those crashes, those cymbals, literally, they go like.
Oh yeah, you see
Right.
If you made that out of
If
brass, it would probably sound good, but you break it, you crack it right in half. I mean, they have to have tried.
Well, you know what's so funny? I actually have a 22-inch brass cymbal, which often you see back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be made in Japan.
Yeah.
Brass, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
And
then
they
I've
used
seen
to-
these.
well,
Are you
'cause
sure
they
those are
stamp it.
brass?
Well,
Yeah, that's
Feisty
stamped.
and everybody still makes cymbals out of brass now. You know, the PST.
I gotta try one. I
threes,
don't think I've ever
But
tried
the
one.
thing is, it's kind of a dead cymbal because it's brass.
Right.
But what's neat about it
Do they
is in the
crack a lot?
No, they're actually softer. Brass is actually softer. Bronze is more likely to crack. Well, I should say not all bronze, but certain bronzes because
Does B8 crack more easily than B20?
Yes.
no,
I think it does.
Well, B8 shouldn't.
I know how it lathes because I lathe cymbals, and B8 when I lathe it, it gets really hot and it cracks off, and you get to the point where you can't even take it
Yeah,
anymore.
totally. Well, that's the you're not. I've often heard
Really hard to work
You're
with.
not supposed to.
I refuse to work with B8.
Yeah, well, you're not. There are some people that figured out a way to kind of relathe B8, but by and large, it's not.
I mean, I can. I just
I wondered
refuse
this
to.
because I had a giant beat. I had a giant beat that's a B8, bronze, and it had like what looked like a layer or two that had peeled away from the edge. So instead of a crack, it wasn't a crack, it wasn't a dent.
Like a chip,
it was
kinda?
it was like a chip, but it was like you could see like a tiered kind of layering,
like moon surface.
almost like plate tech, like like plates.
Well, the thing about B8 is
You know, like
it's
there
an
were
industrial
levels, like
alloy
layers.
that had always been around. It's just Peisty decided to work on it because it has more copper, so it should be cut
They
through.
were the first
cut
to do
through
it
the mix.
before Sabian, I think.
Oh God, yeah. Oh
And
God.
even their Peiste's 602 formula, it appears to have it tarnishes way differently than the Zildjian. stuff. And
yeah.
way faster. It turns green, which leads me to believe it has a lot more copper in it. And it also that's why they put like a lacquer on their cymbals. They do that to this day.
they use like a wax or a
Is it a
sealant.
paraffin?
Where
I
Zildjian,
don't know what it is, yeah.
Zildjian started to do that a little later. I'm gonna grab this.
Do they do it now?
Yeah, there's a protective coating they put on. So I don't know if they do it with the Avitas line. The Avitas line the last 6 or 7 years, like the Zildjian sort of version of the giant beat concept, kind of.
Right.
But
Yeah,
the
those are
multi-
funky. Those actually do have a coating on them, I think. Yeah, I know because
to give it like that. Well, it's like the giant beats.
So many symbols, it feels funky. Yeah.
The giant beats had that brownish green. Peisty had it that way back in the day, which they
What other
reproduced.
alloys are there? There's B12 as well.
B12,
right?
B15. B12 is with the
Number is
Zildjian.
the percentage of tin. 8% tin.
Yeah.
12% tin.
Right.
20% tin.
Right.
And also, apparently, there's some secret thing in Zildjian symbols, which they don't know what it is. It might be silver.
Oh.
It might be blood.
No, I've heard the silver
Nobody
thing.
knows.
I've heard the traces of silver. But it's also too. But the thing is with alloys, it's not just what's in there. It's also the process by which you put it all together too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you might not melt all the tin first.
The smelting
You might get
process.
it going, then once that's for a while, then add more tin.
Smelt.
Yeah.
Schmeltekop.
We got to search the etymology of the word schmelt. It sounds like Yiddish or something.
There is a Schmeltekop music
German.
out in Oak Park.
Yeah, it's probably German.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, but this is awesome. So we got to talk more about John Bonham.
Yes, we have to get back on the JB.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
we did
yeah.
a bunch of gear stuff. So what kind of kits did he do? He did like Vistalite, and he had wood kits. You guys were talking about the lacquer one, and metal.
Mm-hmm.
And was he always Ludwig his whole career?
At least on stage, yeah.
Yeah, on stage.
You know?
I mean, from early 1969. The thing I find interesting about him with regard to his kits is he didn't have a lot of kits, but he explored the different sonic, possibilities of wood and
plastic
and acrylic and steel. So who knows what he would have gone back to had he lived? You know, if he would have gone back to having wood shell kits on stage. He obviously was looking for more power and volume.
His would have been like a 3-ply originally, probably.
Originally, they were 3-ply.
Well, Ludwig went to like 6-ply in
later 70s.
Later 70s.
Yeah.
So
now it's
and
7,
I don't know if he ever had a later 70s 6-ply Ludwig kit. There's no evidence of it.
No evidence.
He had, even according to Jason, he didn't have that many kits. You know, he had a couple. I think there were a couple of the Green Sparkle.
Right.
When did he pass
3. Away? He's not.
He died in September of 1980.
1980. Jesus, before I was even born.
Yeah.
Were they? Yeah, Led Zeppelin was kind of known for having a really good time. I think probably right. They were.
I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Destroying hotel rooms.
Yeah, but
they knew how to enjoy their fame.
Sure.
Yeah,
no
but
doubt.
you know the thing about Bonham is even as he got older, you know, he had problems with alcohol and other things. And,
Sure.
But even when you hear the recordings of him playing 1980, 79 Nebworth, he's still out of hand, man. He's still slaying it.
Yeah.
Technique wise and everything, you know.
Yeah. Everything. Yeah.
I mean,
are there any surviving members of the band right now?
Yeah, John Paul, all of them.
Guys, yeah.
Nice.
All of the,
like I said,
all 3 are remaining.
I don't know.
Well, Robert Plant has a really, active career.
This is an era of music I can learn more about.
Yeah, the Alison Krauss and stuff.
Yeah, and John Paul Jones is continuing to do all kinds of different interesting projects. I think he just wrote an opera recently. Nice. that premiered not long ago. And Jimmy Page is kind of like the guardian of the curator of Led Zeppelin. You know, he hasn't really performed really at all in many years or come out with a new album or anything. Right. His thing is like, maintaining the Led Zeppelin legacy.
He's the Potter of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they have like a big tribute group that does does big concerts?
There are many tribute bands.
We got to let's talk about the PFOZ.
Well, our thing is
one
day it would be nice to do that, and I think we'd
find the right venue.
We'd have good audiences for it, but
Greek
we
theater.
got to all get together. Yeah, we got to all get together first.
Terry's already got
challenge.
it booked.
PFOZ at the Greek.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be.
But yeah, I think Zeppelin probably has the most tribute bands, wouldn't you say?
They're at the
They've
tip of the
got to
top.
be at the top.
There's about 20,000.
There's Beatles bands.
I mean,
Zeppelin, probably more Zeppelin than
Zeppelin,
Beatles.
Toto, right? Journey.
Yeah,
who are the biggest tribute?
The Get the Let Out is what we just saw. Derek Smith, who has a channel here on YouTube called Kick It Like Bonham. That's Derek Smith. He's playing with Get the Let Out. What, Get the Let Out?
Yeah,
National Act.
He was
and they're
filling
playing-
in for their drummer. They have a
They're
regular
huge
drummer,
audiences.
but they're a big Zeppelin tribute band. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have like 7 members. They go for the studio recording sound live.
Well, and one interesting thing in terms of like drum collectability is John Bonham has made Ludwig drums, and in particular Vista Lights, Superphonics, vintage Giant Beats, vintage 2002s, all that stuff. The value has increased exponentially over time because of him.
Sure.
People sell things literally as John Bonham's name is in the title of the listing.
What's the tune with the bass drum?
That's Immigrant Song. Yeah, and the bass drum doesn't play what your right hand was playing.
So what does it play?
The bass drum, it's simpler than it sounds.
Okay.
There's a ghost note or a note before the downbeat.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
so the bass drum's going.
Okay.
Cool,
man.
It's a simpler part than a lot of people think.
You should do. I'll pay you to do a demo on one of the Bonham kits.
Like a Bonhamology clinic or something.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd be up for
honestly,
that.
you could do that. Yeah, I was just
I'll be
thinking.
the Richard Cole. I get to push everybody around.
Oh, you mean like a video?
Yeah,
demo?
whatever you want to do, man. If you have the time, I'd do a clinic with you.
I don't have time to
already
do it
offered
today,
that.
but I would
No, no,
definitely
no.
do it another time.
Well,
sure.
if we set up a clinic, I'll get people to come.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to do like a
That'd be
little
wonderful.
video demo,
Oh,
that'd
sure.
be wonderful.
You could
Yeah.
do either or. You could do both.
I wish I had more time today.
Let me know. Let
Yeah.
me know,
No,
George.
no, I will.
I mean, we're here.
We'll
You know
definitely.
where to find me.
We'll definitely
Well,
do
yeah.
that.
Well, video and clinic.
Yeah. I mean, we could do both. They don't have to be on the same day. You were talking about the tuning thing. I mean, there are a lot of
Nice.
There's a lot of videos out there on how Bonham tuned his drums, but basically what you said about big band drumming is it. You know?
It's a little more open, and
it's like Sonny Payne's drums. If you listen to a Count Basie record with Sonny Payne, like Atomic Basie or Breakfast Dance Bar, I don't know. I'm just thinking of albums. Basie in London. Though that sounds a lot like Bonham's drum tuning to me.
Tone and then.
And the style.
He also has like a little injection of Buddy Rich technique too.
Yeah.
Sonny Payne was a monster.
Sonny Payne is my favorite big band.
Remember he all
Sonny Payne,
the sticks. He do the stuff.
Oh yeah. He did the showbiz thing because his father was Chris Columbus.
Columbus.
Really?
The famous.
I never knew that.
Yeah, the famous entertainer, vaudeville showman.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Juggler. So he had a lot. He grew up in that environment, like Buddy Rich kind of did. Buddy Rich grew up in vaudeville.
Those guys
too.
had like
they had this showbiz element,
Peoria.
crowd pleasing, throwing sticks,
also
twirling
like
sticks,
relentless,
ragtime,
really, really restless, and kind of.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe ruthless. there's
you mean
like
in their style?
In their style and the way they managed their organizations, that early show. I mean, it was a tough industry.
Oh yeah.
Similar to the way people nowadays maybe are who are like deep in like food service, like chefs. They're not messing around.
That's a good comparison. I mean, I think because in those days it wasn't just you making music and stuff, but behind closed doors you're making effing money. You got to feed the family.
Yeah.
That too.
Right.
Lucky when you get. They want the gigs.
Yeah.
Buddy Rich, they had him. They were marching him out when he was 12 or something.
Oh, yeah, I think younger.
Even younger,
8 or
man.
something.
Traps the Drum Wonder.
4 or 5 years old. Traps the Drum Wonder.
Traps the Drum Wonder. And he had a Beatles.
He had the Page Boy haircut.
He had a Page Boy cut.
That's
like a mushroom sort of haircut.
Yeah, he looks like he could be shipped in the bass drum. Like he's smaller than that bass drum.
He said that as it went on, they had to get bigger and bigger bass drums because he started to get taller, and then he was too old for that.
For that. Yeah.
I wonder
then
if
he came out of nowhere in like 1938. Everybody was like,
I wonder if he
"Who the
enjoyed
hell
it.
is
I wonder
this
if he
fucking guy?"
if he liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Thinking like as his parents,
There must be an interview somewhere.
I'm thinking
where
about
he
my
talks
daughter.
about
Like
it.
if I had her out playing drums.
Yeah, because it was like a family affair too. Yeah.
There is a recording of Buddy Rich playing when he's little, and it's the technique. He's got the same technique.
Wow.
It's he's on like blocks.
Is he like a
snare.
teenager?
I think he's like 6 maybe or 7.
Oh, really? A little? I've never heard that.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's 10
they call
maybe.
him Pally, I think. It's like they have a whole thing.
Remember Pally? Let's step outside, Pally.
Wow. I never
it's
heard
just a
that.
silly.
Pally.
It's really very musical theatery.
Yeah. Is it decent fidelity? Like you can hear
Oh
what's
no,
going on?
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though, Terry.
Yeah, it's
I love that. I love those old recordings. It might have even been recorded on a cylinder.
Yeah.
Perfect doubles, like doubles on like the rim.
Right.
Just totally even.
Yeah.
Terry, do you remember Dick Culley?
Oh my
him
God, is
from
he
the
still
drum
alive?
show? I think so. Yeah, somehow.
He is like one of the original sort of Buddy Rich, like copiers.
He loved strong drink.
Oh, I don't
as much
know
as
that.
I.
Was he around here?
Dick
was
was
a
Dick.
local guy?
He's
East
a
Coast?
great big band player. I think he's from Florida. He still lives in Florida.
But he played. He could
look
do
him
all
up.
that Buddy Rich.
Buddy
stuff.
Yeah.
Like
What he
crazy.
did, he did, and the reason that it came to mind was because you were talking about On the Hoop.
Yeah,
Which-
it just does those singles
Right.
just on the rim, and it's like
Yeah.
there's no.
He came to the drum shop in 2000. Terry
Came here to this location.
No,
The one
no.
downtown?
This is when we were downtown.
Oh, right.
I'm wondering, were you there? Because George, I don't think you were there.
Mm-mm.
This is
I don't
probably
think so.
because
This is 05-ish.
Did he do like a clinic or something?
it was. You could call it that. He just kind of played. It was just for fun. Joel Spencer actually played the night. Him and his wife. It was in the Fine Arts Building. When we were in the Fine Arts Building, they played. It was so beautiful in there, listening to the jazz like ricochet through the corridors.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful kind of like. And I remember I went downstairs and a bunch of the drum show guys were all smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. It was great.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy? Don't rat us out.
Did you come to that one though?
I know. I knew somebody that worked there at the time because
everyone came to that. There was a bus. We bussed everyone out.
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
at that.
wow.
No.
This would have been like 2005, maybe.
I did study with Joel Spencer, a few lessons where he just talked about stuff.
What do you think of Joel?
Oh, he's a nice, great drummer, nice guy,
Yeah, he's got some. What about you, George? Do you know
I haven't
Joel very
seen
well?
Joel for a long time, but yeah, I love Joel. Joel's a great
He's got
cat.
a lot of marching in him. At least,
Yeah, he's got a lot of history. He played with a lot of people.
You ever seen a left hand like that before?
Yeah,
Like
he's
he'll just do
right.
stuff.
He'll keep it. It'll be moving.
Yeah,
Like perpetually. Yeah.
perpetual
Yeah.
motion. I think that's a good way to describe it.
It does-
And brushes really.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has really good technique. Like you can do doubles. I need to trim my fingernails. Yeah, you can do doubles.
That's what you need is a nail clippers.
Yes.
Now you need drum
Real
keys.
classy. Yeah, just.
Can we zoom in on that?
That's how busy I am, though, man. I've got.
It puts the lotion in the basket.
Yeah. Terry, tell me about. Tell me about John Bonham, Terry.
John Bonham is the man. He played his ass off like no one you ever heard before, and no one since. Although George, I do think George is like. Do you remember Men in Black, where the alien
I love that
stuffed
movie.
himself in Vincent D'Onofrio's body? Sometimes I do think that Bonham has taken over
ridiculous.
George's body.
That's ridiculous.
Because he plays just like him, but also
Sugar.
too. Here's the thing: where you could rake in the cash is your natural ability very quickly to tune exactly like Bonham. That in and of itself.
I
even if you
do
couldn't
think
play
some
the
of
drums,
that is
dude,
like it's the touch thing though too.
Totally.
It's
That's what I'm
tuning
saying.
and it's
people always
knowing how
want
to
the
get
tune
the
bot
sound out
stuff.
of the
but
drum.
I'm telling you could do clinics where you just tune, man. Show up.
He's gonna come up and he's gonna be like, sugar in water. What?
That sounds like Sean Connery.
Yeah, that
Sugar.
sounds like
Okay.
Sean Connery.
Sugar in water. That's what happened in Men in
Oh
Black.
yeah. Men in Black. That's right. Yeah, because he's a cockroach.
I'm not as up on those
He's a
movies.
cockroach stuffed.
Oh,
It's
you're
the
right.
first one.
Oh yeah. That's
Remember, he's
right.
like,
Edgar,
Yeah.
Edgar's skin is hanging off her bones. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
You made the reference for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies. That movie's so great.
yeah, that's George. It's George Bonham. George from Birmingham.
No,
But-
that's not.
Yeah,
That's not true.
Well, I mean, yeah, some of those other drummers with a similar background. Oh man, what's his name? Red hair.
Ginger Baker.
Yeah, Ginger Baker. He's from the Isles. The Isles of Britannia.
Yeah, I don't know where he's from originally. I don't think he's from Birmingham
Was he
though.
from Scotland,
Another great
maybe?
drummer
He's
from
Scottish?
Birmingham, great rock drummer, is Bill Ward.
Okay, I don't know
He's
anything
from
about
that
Bill Ward.
area. He played with
Who-
Black Sabbath.
Oh,
And another guy who
I
loved
was
jazz.
really into Black Sabbath.
And another guy who loved jazz and had he had a real swing. He had a real swing
And then he rhymes
sensibility in
masses
his
with
playing.
masses.
You know? Yeah, right. Yeah,
You couldn't think of it.
Dun, dun, dun,
Exactly.
bum, bum, bum,
That tune's a little funky. Bum, bum.
Yeah, listen to his fills. It's very kind of what's the word, unorthodox
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Very
to.
cool. Well, yeah, George has to take off. We'll do this. again
Yeah, I'm
sometime.
sorry about that, but
No.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yes,
anyways,
by all means.
Yeah, I mean, well, we should probably go over Terry. We can do more later.
Yeah, absolutely. I have about another hour.
You want to continue? So why don't we can walk him over and then we can just finish up, come back.
Sounds good.
That way everyone can go pee too.
Yeah,
we
that's-
don't have a
that's
bathroom
true, too.
here.
Take a
But anyways,
pause
yeah.
for the cause.
Yeah, George,
this is
great.
George, thanks
Oh, yeah,
for coming.
sorry. We're-
Before
we're
you
still
go,
here.
say a
We're still
band
here.
that people should come check out. Something you're doing other than the YouTube stuff. The
Ooh,
Bonham stuff,
let's
yeah.
see something that's coming up. Well, when is this going to air?
Probably be a good month.
Oh,
so.
I see. Yeah, I can't think of anything I have that far in advance that's worth checking out. But
Didn't
you
used
can
to
go
play
to my
with- Didn't you
website.
used to play with Joey?
I did.
Francesco.
Yeah,
So that's one
yeah.
thing we should say.
Yeah.
We should say he just passed away, and that's
Yeah.
it really sucks.
It's very sad.
Joey DiFrancesco just passed away?
Joey DiFrancesco passed away last week, and
no.
and
I didn't know that.
that's a huge loss.
I
That's
mean,
a
yeah.
massive loss for the jazz community, for the music community in general. But
He seemed like he was pretty
he
healthy.
was the real deal.
just come out of nowhere. it
How
seemed
old,
like.
how
Yeah,
old
he
was
had
he?
a-
Like 73, 74?
No, 51.
Yeah, he was
younger
pretty
than-
young,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I've
Joe-
got some of his really
What?
early albums.
Joey DiFrancesco?
The
Same guy, the
organist.
organ player that used to play with all the time?
Yeah.
He still probably would have
Yeah.
if he hadn't been.
I
Yeah.
saw
Why
you
do I
with
think
him.
he's like a...
Yeah, at the showcase.
I think
maybe?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just
Maybe like 10, 15 years ago.
yeah. If you go
When
to
was
my
the last time you played with him?
November of no, what am I saying? I played with him, but he was playing tenor saxophone in June.
Okay.
This past June.
Only tenor? He didn't even.
Only tenor. It was just
Hey,
a one-off
it's a little
gig.
lighter to bring
It
the-
was a one-off gig at the saxophone shop in Evanston. So
That's
it was
so
like
cool,
a thing
man.
he did while he was in town.
Is that a place that's there still? Saxophone shop?
Yeah, in Evanston. Yeah.
Wow.
And he played trumpet.
And he played trumpet. He's just
Drums?
He
Did
was
he try drums at
phenomenally
all?
talented. He played a little drums.
yeah, I'm sure
he
he
could swing. He could play time. But he learned trumpet and he learned tenor sax all
Yeah.
just by
Yeah,
he's just
Joey, we miss
phenomenal.
you,
51.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him.
51.
51. Yeah.
Younger than you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a heart attack. But yeah, if you want to
sorry.
know what I'm doing, just go to the website.
man. Yeah, for sure.
It's justmyname.com, georgefludas.com.
George
I
Fludas-
try to keep the show's part of it updated. So,
Sure.
as a matter of fact, I need to do that. I need to update and add.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget about Bonhamology as well.
What, do
here
you have
on
like your
YouTube.
own jazz quartet or trio that?
No, I don't have anything that I'm doing currently. That's
too busy
as a leader.
to have your
I've
own.
had it varies. Like sometimes I'm at Andy's, I'll have a residency there.
Okay, so maybe check him
Or
out
at
at Andy's.
Winters.
Yeah, George's
Yeah.
gonna be playing at Andy's a bunch. That's a great club.
Yeah, the Green Mill, the Jazz Showcase, places like that.
I just
Yeah.
watched. Did you know Barrett Deems?
Oh, sure, I did. Yeah.
Next podcast, we'll bring him up. I just
Yeah,
watched the
I knew
video.
Barrett.
Andy's had his kit. Did you ever see his
Yeah,
kit there?
I used to play that kid all the time.
Oh, that's cool, man.
That was the house kid, and actually I played it a
Terry, do you
couple
remember him
months
from
ago.
the drum show?
I remember him. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Barrett
I remember
was-
he played it. What was
think
the
we drove.
He
Was
played
such a
the
trip.
We drove
on
there.
Milwaukee across from the. He had a monthly gig there at the
He
Blue
had a
Note
gig
or
at a
something.
place called the Elbow Room on Lincoln.
I thought he right. I
his
know
big
Elbow
band.
Room. That's a great place.
Yeah.
But I thought he had.
Might have seen
What was
him
it?
there.
Blue
It was a
Note, not the
regular
Blue
weekly
Note.
night.
I
The
saw him
Note.
when I was
Remember a
really
place called the
young.
Note?
The Note, yeah. I think
He
you're
had a
right.
regular thing there at the
I
Note.
think you're right,
and
at
that was
the
on
Note.
Milwaukee,
Yeah, I think
south
so.
of North Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go.
North
So
side
anyway,
of the
yeah.
I
Anyway,
gotta
George,
take off,
we'll see you
but-
next time.
Are you
And
gonna
then Terry?
hang for a while?
Yeah, I'm gonna hang.